So, thank you all for being here tonight and all of this turmoil. This is part of your choice to move through the healings consciously. And it will help you have so much more compassion for yourselves and others having this information, because it's just helpful. And I learned that astrology is kind of a way for me to cope with chaos. And I saw my mind really stretching toward astrology to help me organize this chaotic information over the weekend. And I was able to let it go for a little while. And when I let it go, new information was able to come in. I was holding really strongly to all the things I knew about these archetypes, but they really wanted me to free them so that they could teach me something new about them. And I'm so excited to teach you guys something new about them now, because I haven't even said it out loud yet. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm pretty excited because I have like all this. Anyways, so today we're going to talk about Aries through Virgo, and these are the personal signs. And these are the signs that are very human, and they correspond with the 7 chakras, the 6 chakras actually. And so we're going to talk about a couple of layers of maps right now. First with Aries. First, let's start with the very beginning. Like, why is Aries even existing? Let's start with an origin here. If you can imagine that this is the beginning of everything. There's nothing, I mean, for the sake of letting our minds stretch a little bit. It's just a ball in space. And from the ball's perspective, it can't see itself, right? It is just a ball. And we can describe this ball. It's the void space. It's, we can describe the ball by making a circle on a paper. Okay, it's a little squidgy, but you get the point. And this ball of energy is satisfied or not. I mean, I don't want to pretend like I know what God is about, but let's say this is God for a moment. This is source. This is everything that's ever been and will be. And there, within this God center, there became an idea, like this crazy idea that something new might want to be started, that we might want to try something new. What if we individuate? And this is Aries energy, and I had a really hard time understanding Aries for a really long time until this kind of thing came to me, because I was like, why did Aries even start in the first place? Like, why would you even want to separate from source? Why? I just didn't get it, and I still don't know if I really get it, but I know that it did happen. For some reason, Creator wanted to experience itself individually, as an individual. And so the first split happened. And now we have source, and we have this individual that is Aries. And Aries is like, whoa, it was kind of a quick, impulsive act to come and be separate. And it's not all the way separate, but it feels pretty separate, right? It's like out there on the external part of there. But immediately when he was separated from source, so this is my Aries figurine, and he's like, whoa. What am I doing out here? I can't survive out here outside of source. I don't even know what I'm doing, right? Like, I gotta find some shit to survive now. And so Aries and the Creator, because Aries is Creator, nothing cannot be Creator, right? Decides that they're gonna make some stuff to live, right? And so they decide to make some stuff. And that is another circle. So now we have Aries, and he's like, phew, I made some stuff. This is Taurus. And Taurus is the world, for our intent, our purposes this evening. This beautiful place that is safe to live on. It has all kinds of things that we need, and it's a place where we can be separate from source, but still exist without being connected, right? But very quickly, Aries needed to understand. He was feeling kind of lonely, and he didn't really know how to describe this stuff. He's walking around, and there's all this like fuzzy stuff. Like he's still in his feminine brain, and he's still like, everything's just colors and squiggles. What am I supposed to eat, right? And so he decides to split his brain into two hemispheres so that he can receive information and he can label it so he knows where he found that the last time. So, oh, here's some berries. These are berries. I'm going to call them berries, and they're good. And those are poop, and that's not good to eat, but I know what it is. And so that's good and that's not good, right? And this is Gemini energy, right? So we have Aries, we have Taurus, and now we have Gemini. And I'm going to go into these in detail, but I want to kind of give them some context first. So Gemini starts saying, oh, well, this is good and this is bad, and this is this and that, and the duality of the brain occurs. And it's like, all right, oh, not to mention, now it's starting to settle into the earth. So as soon as we run into Aries and we have black and white, we have a lot or a little in all of this duality, we start to feel like, I'm also able to remember my Christ, my whole mind. I'm able to remember my source mind, my spiritual self, but I'm starting to get a human mind. I'm starting to get a matter mind, a physical mind. And so Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is the archetype of the communicator between the gods and the earth, right? So this is the moment where we're still feeling like we're spiritual beings. We still feel like we're part of source. We still have, but we're seeing that there's this other thing that is separate from source. Now there's source and not source, because everything's duality. And when there's source and not source, then okay, wait a minute, like confusion occurs, right? So what am I? Am I source or am I not source? So this confusion creates another circle. And this circle is Cancer. And Cancer is the moon. Cancer's, and we're going to go into detail like I said, but this is the moment where Aries is standing on the earth and he looks up and he's like, oh my God, do you see the moon up there? I am so far away from source now. There's like all kinds of space out there that I'm not connected to. Obviously, I'm so on the earth. And this is the first time Aries is like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go home. I don't want to be disconnected anymore. Bring me home. I want to go home. and interestingly enough, that's when the emotions occur, and we're still communicating with source, but we feel like we're communicating with source as a separate being, and it's a very vulnerable place to be, because we feel very far away from where we started. We feel very far away from that moment when we first popped out, because all of our energy was out away from source, and then like, oh, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay. Wait a minute, oh, I want to go back. And source says, hold on, I know that you want to come home, but if you come home now, you won't see how divine you are. You're feeling like you're all separate from me, but you're really not. And if you come home now, you will come in with a bunch of wounds. You'll come home with the thought that somehow you really are separate from me. And you just got to Earth. Why don't you enjoy it for a little while? Like, just see if you can fully be a human for a minute and see what that feels like. Because there's a reason you want to separate in the first place, and I don't want you coming home and leaving again as soon as you get here, because you get a wild hair up your ass. So you're going to stay and you're going to figure it out. And Aries is like, okay. So the next circle gets made. And this is Leo. our consciousness suddenly decides, all right, it's okay here. There's a lot of animals. I'm the king of the kingdom. Like, I have all of this stuff to rule. And I can communicate really clearly with all of these. I can rule these things. They're at my command. And it's actually even a little bit like jilted. Like, well, if you're not going to let me come home, I'm just going to have a good time. And so Leo is all about playing, and it's one of the most separate from source signs that consciousness can kind of be at, because it wants to be so human at this point. And being human and completing the human experience is absolutely necessary, and it's absolutely what source wants Aries to do, because until he fully understands what it is to be human, he won't be happy coming back to source, right? So, but he's still coming, and he's had a really good time. But we're coming pretty close back to where we came, and this is when Virgo comes in. And Virgo is all about, well, we've had a pretty good time playing, but now it's time to purify. It's time to come into our sacredness again, and it's time to complete ourselves in this human experience. And so she comes in and she kind of cleans up the playfulness that she had, and she realizes that she has a responsibility to do something. She kind of grows up and becomes mature and becomes a fulfilled human. And then finally we come back, and there's the completion where she comes back into this circle here. She doesn't really fully come back because she's got another spiral to do, but I thought this was a really interesting diagram, and it got me thinking a little bit about the 7 days of creation in the biblical sense. And so I kind of reflected on the 7 days of creation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but according to the 7 days of creation in the traditional Bible, first in the beginning there was a sound, right? And the sound was God. And from the sound came light. And so here we've got a separation. We have that first separation where Aries comes into light, and there's now nothing and light, or everything and light. And then on the second day of creation, there were elements such as air and water, and that became the matrix for life. It became what was necessary for life. On this third day, there became land and all manner of things, and so that corresponds with Gemini, right? This is what we need to survive Taurus, that matrix of life that we need. Here we have Gemini, and Gemini is how we label everything, how we describe our terrain, right? Then on this day, what is 1, 2, 3, 4? On the fourth day, that was when the moon and the stars and astrology was created. That was when the maps of the heavens was created for man. Because at this point in the game, man's looking at the moon and he's like, what am I doing down here? And so in the creation story, God says, well, here's some planets and some archetypes for you to look at so you can find your way back. Good luck, you know? and so the heavens was created. On the fifth day, all of the animal kingdom was created. And it was fantastic. And this is Leo, right? And on the sixth day, that was when man and woman was created in God's image. And this is also Virgo. This is the maturation of consciousness, coming into wholeness. And on the seventh day, it says God rested, right? Like, oof, we got back to the beginning. And this is the seed of life, coincidentally. This creates the seed of life. This is the root of all things that occur after it. With this completion, all manner of manifestation can happen. And I just think that is a very, very lovely diagram to describe this. And so, on top of all of this, we have the chakra system. The first chakra in Aries is, are you guys all familiar with the chakra system? The first chakra is base chakra, and this is our connection to who we are. This is our individuation. This is how we feel secure in the world, and you can see how that very first chakra is like, okay, I'm separate from source, I'm separate from my mother, I'm separate, right? And that, like we said, the first house, that's when that seed pops out of its seed bed and pronounces that it's there. The second chakra is related to water, and it's related to emotion and very much the things that we need to feel sensuous, in the world, to experience the world. And it's like Aries deciding, well, I obviously need some things to survive here. And so Taurus is all about sensuality. Coincidentally, the archetype of Taurus is the bull, right? And if you look at a bull head, it's shaped very similarly to ovaries and a uterus, and it corresponds with the second chakra, which is where even if you're a man, the reproductive organs are considered part of the second chakra. Or not the organs, but the drive to reproduce is part of the second chakra. The third, Gemini, is related to the third chakra. And what happens in the third chakra? This is where we have all of our ideas and opinions of who we are, and how we're different from you, and what our willpower is, and how we think about the world. And that is very much a Gemini situation. This can be a strong connection to spirit if we allow it to, but it's a place of duality, it's a place of judgment. This here, Cancer, corresponds with the fourth chakra. This is our heart. This is where we have feelings. I mean, real emotion. Like, if you have desires and drives and sensuality here, and you have some emotion here, this is real heart emotion. This is connecting to the emotion of the whole, connecting to the hearts of everything that is. And not unlike connecting to the great cycles of life, you know? And so I feel the heart chakra is the gateway to connecting with everything, source. It's our communication place. And this is when Aries decides to communicate with source again. This is when he's like, give me some guidance. And not coincidentally, the heart is where you receive guidance from source. As we move into Leo, and this next segment, that corresponds with the throat chakra. Well, the throat chakra is where we roar. It's where we create. Our arms are connected to our throats, right? It's how we put things into the world. In the days of creation, it even says that this is the day where animals can reproduce on their own. God grants the animals the freedom to reproduce and create. And so here in Leo, we create, we play, we go on the playground of life, we engage in the world, and we don't think so much about the spiritual. We just engage in fun for the pleasure of it, because it's all part of the experience. Then finally we move into Virgo, and that corresponds with our third eye. And the third eye is the place where, you know, Kundalini energy comes through and connects, and this is our connecting between the masculine and feminine. This is our connection to our intuition, and this chakra completes us as a human body system. When all of these chakras are complete, it opens this portal on the seventh chakra to spirit. That's the gateway, and that is the gateway here that moves us into the rest of creation, the rest of our human desires for whatever we want to do. So we can keep going around and around. We can add layers and layers and layers on top of this. We can talk about Aries being, you know, the alpha male, and who kind of has a little ego and wants to do things by himself, and you can kind of get a feeling of what this Aries energy is wanting to do, why he would think that he can do it better on his own, right? And we can get a feel how very quickly he's like, whoa, I am not an island, I do need things. And so, basically, is there any questions right now? Is everything very clear? Okay. It feels very clear to me. I just want to make sure that it's very clear to everyone else. I don't know if I'm speaking Greek up here. There are a few little subtleties to these archetypes that I think are kind of interesting. Aries, well, I don't want to talk about Aries anymore. But let's talk about Gemini for a minute. The duality. The Gemini duality is kind of the thing that's being healed right now that I was talking about in the reading earlier tonight. And there's not a lot of Gemini activity going on in the world, but this is the first place of real separation between thinking that we are separate from Source. And so, and Gemini is the hardest sign for me to understand. I have the hardest time with it. I know it's ruled by Mercury, and I know that it's air, and I know it's mutable, but it's really hard for me to pin down. And so I wanted to ask any of you if you have insights about Gemini. No?
It's two-faced.
Two-faced.
Like the god Janus, two faces. It can go either way, I always feel.
Like it can have opinions one way, or it can like change its opinions.
Right.
So it's always morphing from
whatever face it puts toward you. That's how I always thought of it, but I don't know.
Well, if Aries is ruled by Mars and the masculine principle, and Taurus is ruled by Venus, the feminine principle, and Gemini is ruled by Mercury, then Cancer is ruled by the moon.
Isn't the word mercurial from Mercury, where Gemini is found in mercurial?
Yeah, mercurial is very moody and changeable, right?
Right.
So if Gemini gives way to Cancer, and Gemini, it allows consciousness to begin to realize that it's separate and it wants to be with the mother. Let's talk about the crabs for a moment. Why do you think that the crabs would be a symbol for Cancer? I mean, from the story, you can kind of feel that moment when we realize that we're not home anymore. And so we have to start making our own home. And that's what a crab does. It totally creates its own home and it protects its perimeter because it doesn't feel safe out in the grand world of not home, right? Does anyone know any Cancer people? Yeah, and my partner is a Cancer too. And so I'm really interested in Cancer because I feel like it's the place where the most inspiration to have self-development can occur because it's such a vulnerable space. And I know some of you have Cancer rising, and some of you have Cancer. I have Cancer in my relationship sector. And so this is a really interesting place to look for that information. And I think what I'm feeling like is I want everyone to pull their charts out if they have them and see where they have these signs in their charts. Where do you have Virgo or Aries through Virgo in your charts?
Which house, you mean?
Yeah, which houses?
I have 10th, 12th, 1st, 2nd, 3rd.
10th, 12th, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Okay. All right.
Is Aries the horns?
Aries is
Yeah, the horns. Okay, so I have it in 7.
So you come all the way down to here. So you have 7th all the way down to.
It's very
on the top of the sphere.
It's Mercury. So are you reading on the outside of the circle?
Yeah, on the outside. So
Oh,
this is Aries. So you have Aries coming from your 6th house. So
Oh, okay.
a lot of people have these personal signs up in the impersonal houses. If you remember from last time's class, we talked about the 12-house system. And let's go back. And we talked about Aries through Virgo being on the bottom half of the chart. And the bottom half of the chart in those personal houses correspond with those archetypes. And so there can be a little bit of an interesting dynamic if you take those personal archetypes and you put them in the impersonal houses, right? And that's kind of what we're finding in a lot of people's charts. I feel like we need to take a break. I'm having a hard time connecting to what I'm trying to do right now. So I think we're going to take a break.